All right, so how we're going to start is just in an easy seated pose. This is called Sukhasana in Sanskrit. You don't really need to know all of the Sanskrit names. I just sometimes like to use them because they are the original names of the poses. But basically you just cross your legs, and what you want to do here is you want to make sure that you're not rounding the back. So I gave my lovely student here a bolster. So if you want to sit up on that bolster, and actually, if you can turn it sideways, that would be great, just so that I can show everybody. So actually turn sideways, yeah. So that I can show everybody what I mean and why I want you to sit on the bolster. So a lot of times whenever we're sitting with the legs crossed or just sitting down on the ground, even with the legs out or whatever, the back rounds. So if you're able to sit on something like a bolster or just grab a couple couch cushions or something like that, then you can bring your pelvis more into a neutral position. Okay, so which he does know how to do. So instead of tucking the tailbone under, you just kind of tip the pelvis forward. I'm just mirroring my pelvis with my hands here, tipping the pelvis forward so you can feel the sitting bones rooting down. And as you can see, his pelvis is neutral, meaning the front hip bones are level to the back hip bones. So his tailbone's not tucking under and his butt's not popping out. Okay, so it's just nice and neutral, which helps his spine to get really long. Okay, then from there, you just want to, you don't really want to pull the shoulders back, but you want to relax the shoulders away from the ears and really just lift the rib cage up. I'm going to try not to tickle him because I know everywhere I touch he's gonna start getting ticklish. And then tuck your chin just a little bit, Marty, so that your chin's parallel to the ground. Perfect. So now he's got a nice long spine. So this is super important. So there's no like shame. It doesn't make you a bad yogi if you have to sit onto a bolster. Okay, so from there, you can just stay there, babe. Close your eyes. And let's have the palms actually face up for now. And just start to breathe. Slow down the breath. Besides slowing the breath, you don't need to change anything about it. And now start to deepen the breath. So as you inhale as far as you can go without causing strain. And then exhale as far as you can go without causing strain. So maybe you can inhale to 4 and exhale to 4. And as you inhale, really think about expanding the ribs. So as you inhale, expand low ribs, mid ribs, upper ribs. Exhale, upper ribs, mid ribs, low ribs, and belly. Again, inhale, low ribs, mid ribs, upper ribs. Exhale, upper ribs, mid ribs, low ribs, and belly. Do that a couple more rounds. And I want you to think about how you want to feel after your class today. How do you want to feel after your practice? Do you want to feel grounded, calm, stable, secure? Let's pick something around that in that arena. So something around being grounded. Maybe it's safe, secure, calm. Just pick something. And then on your inhale, think I am. And then on your exhale, put in your word of choice, your feeling of choice. And connect that with your breath for a couple rounds here. Let your lips form a slight smile as you do this. It doesn't have to be a big smile, just a little one, letting the corners of the lips come up slightly. Deep breaths. Good. Now take an inhale through the nose and then exhale through the mouth. Just letting go of anything you brought onto your mat with you today. Do it one more time. Inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Beautiful. Now turn your palms over on the knees. When the hands are turned down, it's signifying a little bit more of a grounding energy. Now from here, keep the rest of the spine straight, but let the head slowly hang forward. So just starting to feel a stretch, maybe in the neck, the shoulders, the upper back. Continue breathing throughout the whole practice, and then slowly let the head roll to the left. So let the left ear hang towards the left shoulder. And bring the head forward and to the right. And again, forward and to the left. And forward and to the right. Good. And then bring your head back down to center. Let your head hang. Take a breath. Blink your eyes open. And slowly lift your head. So anytime throughout today's practice, if you feel like you need to kind of release, take an inhale through the nose and exhale through the mouth. That's a cleansing breath, okay? So we've been seated for a while. Now let's come onto the hands and knees and move any props off to the side. There you go. Okay, so coming onto the hands and knees. So anytime you're on the hands and knees, you have the wrists under the shoulders and the knees directly under the hips. Okay, so spread your fingers apart as far as you can comfortably and keep your knuckles pushing down into the mat. So I shouldn't even be able to fit a piece of paper under the knuckles. So push all those knuckles down. Very good. Okay, so now we're going to move through and do a couple rounds of cat-cow just to get into the pelvis a little bit, but also the spine. So as you inhale, start to look out in front of you. Draw the chest forward, shoulders back. Good job. And then exhale, round the back, chin towards the chest. Tuck the tailbone down towards the ground. Inhale, look out in front of you. So still using that same breath we were doing in the beginning. And then exhale, round. So we're breathing into 4 and out to 4. So inhale, look out. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, round. 2, 3, 4. Inhale, out. 2, 3, 4. Exhale, round. 2, 3, 4. Do one more on your own. Good. And then come back to neutral here. So bring your knees as wide as your mat and bring your big toes together to touch, kind of like you're making a triangle. Knees as wide as the mat. And then knees together. Perfect. Now we're going to do some hip circles here. This will get into your pelvis again, but also a little bit of the hips. So you're going to go around to the side and then back. And then up, so making a circle with the hips. Okay, so around and back. Just go back as far as it feels good for you. You might not be able to bring the hips all the way back to the heels, but that's okay. Just do some circles at your own pace here. Good, and then let's go the other way. Making sure you're breathing, so just find a rhythm of breathing here that feels good for you. I usually like to exhale back and inhale up. Good. And then come back to neutral. All right, from here, curl your toes under. Oh, bring your knees back to center. Yeah, sorry. Curl your toes under and then start to bring the weight back towards the feet. So you're going to put some weight into the soles of your feet. Yeah, bring your knees back a little closer together, Marty, so that they're more parallel. Yep. Okay, so now you might feel a stretch in the soles of the feet. You might feel a stretch even in the quads, maybe the ankles. So Marty's doing the advanced version. He's sitting all the way back. So you can do that. It's totally fine. You can do that if it feels okay for you, but you don't have to sit back. This pose is actually called broken toe pose. So we don't want any broken toes out there. All right, so come back to the hands and knees now, and then uncurl your toes. And then just very lightly tap the tops of the feet onto the ground. So just like I said, I don't want you guys to ever feel pain. So if you start to feel any pain, strain, or pulling, please back out of it a little bit, okay? So now we're going to move into a pose called downward facing dog. It's really good for the low back because it stretches the hamstrings, okay? So start to walk your knees back a couple of inches and curl the toes under, okay? From here, start to lift the knees up off the mat and then push into the knuckles and send the hips up and back. So if everybody watching, if you guys just want to sit down and watch for a second, that would be great. So what I want to look at here in my student is that he's in a straight line from the wrist to the hips. So I'm going to have you bend your knees just a little bit more, Marty. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push here and kind of send his hips up and back, really pushing, pushing, pushing up and back. So if you're a teacher, you would kind of do some housekeeping, make sure that you're not touching their skin, and then just push back, 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 back. If you're a student, really focus on getting in that straight line from the wrist to the hips. Okay, if you're not doing the pose yet, go ahead and come into it. Take a few breaths there. Good, rolling your shoulders away from each other, squeezing them in, keep that, and then roll the forearms in, knuckles down, good. Couple more breaths. Good. Now come down to the hands and knees. Bring the knees as wide as the mat again. Uncurl the toes. Bring the big toes together to touch. Okay, and then start to bring the hips back towards the heels for child's pose. So you might not bring the hips all the way to the heels. That's okay. Now, if your forehead doesn't easily touch the mat, what you can do is stack your fists and place your forehead onto the top fist. Okay, so just take some breaths there. Keep breathing. I'm going to get a drink and check the time here. Feel free to take some cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. As a teacher in this pose, I just like to kind of lengthen the spine and push the hips down gently. Breathe. Come back to your affirmation. On your inhale, I am, and on your exhale, your affirmation of choice. Good. Let's do our down dog one more time and really get into those hamstrings, okay? So make your way back up to your hands and knees. Bring your knees back to center. Really push those knuckles down. Spread your fingers apart. Good. Curl the toes under. And then start to lift your knees up off the mat. And then push your hips up and back into space. Really push, 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 push. Beautiful. Okay, so now this time I want you to think about rolling the shoulders away from each other, almost like you're trying to close the armpits. Okay, and then roll the forearms in at the same time. Now let's walk the dog. So push one heel down and then the other heel down, and then one heel down and the other heel down. And that's going to start to get into the hamstrings a little bit more, okay, which is one of the main culprits of the tight low back or having pain in the low back. Good, a couple more. Just really walk the dog, pedal the feet, push. Very good. Okay, and then come down to the hands and knees. All right, now stand up tall on the knees. So if you don't have blocks, what you can do is you can do this by, you can actually grab a chair, like if you have a folding chair or anything like that. But I'm going to give our student here some blocks. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do is bring your right leg out in front. It might not be pretty, might not be graceful. Okay, it doesn't matter. We're going to use those blocks in a second. Yeah, I like to have the back toes curled under for a little bit more stability. Walk the right foot forward just a couple inches. Okay, and then start to push the right knee forward, but don't go so far that you pop your booty out. Okay, so I want you to pull your hips back just a little bit so you can tuck your tailbone. Draw your navel towards your spine. And then push the right knee forward so that you feel a stretch on the left leg. You should feel a stretch in the left, maybe quad and the hip flexor. Okay, so right up in here. And breathe here. Do you feel a stretch there? Okay, good. And so you can bring your hands to your heart. Or if you want a little bit more, you can bring the arms up overhead. You want to bring your arms up overhead? And then he's going to wrap the shoulders just like we did in the downward facing dog. Good. And then try to straighten the arms. Palms can be touching, or if it feels better, they can be shoulder width, whatever feels better for you. Find a gazing point, somewhere to stare to help you focus and breathe. Come back to your affirmation and draw the lower belly gently in and up. As you inhale, expand the ribs. As you exhale, ground down and just let go of what's no longer serving you, just kind of setting that intention. Good. Okay, so now this is where the blocks are going to come in handy. What I want you to do is have the blocks on either side of the front foot and bring your hands down to the blocks or a chair or your couch, whatever you have, whatever's handy, okay? Now, see how he's got a really nice long spine? Oh, he's actually has learned so much. I'm so proud of him. Okay, so he's got a nice long spine. See, can you round your back for a second so we can show him what not to do? So what we don't want to do is have a rounded back here, okay? So he's going to draw his chest forward and his shoulders back. See that? And then tuck your chin a little bit. Perfect, just so that the neck is straight. Now, I want to make sure he keeps his upper back just like this, and then start to pull your hips back a little bit, Marty, so you start to feel a stretch in the front hamstring. He's not going to have to go very far, okay? As some of you guys know, he's a farmer. He's out there. He works really hard and does manual labor, so he gets a little bit tighter. Do you feel a stretch now, or do you need to go further? Okay, so he already feels a stretch, so he's going to stay there. Okay, some of you might be able to go a little bit further and actually lift up your front toes. The key is to not jam the front leg straight and round the back. So keep it as bent as you need to really keep drawing the chest forward and the shoulders back. That's way more important. Try to breathe here. So everybody's pose is going to look different. It's not like he's worse at yoga because he's not straightening the leg. It doesn't matter. Okay, we want to feel sensation. If you do yoga, you're good at yoga. Very good. Okay, now bend the knee again. Okay, now bring both of those blocks inside of the right foot. Walk the right foot all the way over to the right side of the mat. Turn the toes out just a little bit. Yes. Now let's walk the left knee back. So walk the back knee back a little bit. Now he's probably going to feel a pretty good stretch in the back leg, the back quad and hip flexor. So that's great. Now, maybe, well, first of all, keep pushing into all four corners of the foot. Sometimes we tend to want to roll out onto the foot, and make sure that the right knee is pointing in the same direction as the toes. Now you might stay here, or you might lower the blocks and go down to the next level, or you might even eventually come down onto the forearms. Okay, but don't come here if you can't breathe, if your knee turns out all crazy, if you can't crack a smile, if you hate me. Those are all good signs you need to back out of the pose. Okay, so breathe here. Come back to your affirmation, find a gazing point. Notice where you feel sensation, but not pain. Good. All right, now slowly come up, and we're going to switch it out and do it on the other side. So again, grace comes with time. Don't worry about being graceful. Okay, bring your left leg in front, however you can. So just doing the first pose in kneeling warrior. Good. All right, and you can bring your hands to your hips while we get into the right position. Okay, so walk the left foot forward a tiny bit, lengthen the tailbone down, navel towards the spine, push the left knee forward until you feel a stretch in the back leg. Okay, again, making sure not to let the booty pop out. And then you can curl your back toes under. And you really want the back leg, the back shin, to be parallel to the long side of the mat. Good. So it's just so interesting to see like all different bodies. That's like really hard, right? For you to do that. It's just because of how your leg, how your legs put into your joint. You can keep your hands there or bring your hands to your heart or overhead. If you bring them overhead, wrap the shoulders. Find your gazing point and breathe. Come back to your affirmation. Keep breathing. Very good. Okay, now hands to the blocks, very carefully. Bring your hands to the blocks if needed, or your chair or whatever you have. Okay, now from here, walk the left foot forward, scooch it forward somehow like an inch or two. Okay, now draw the chest forward, shoulders back, keep that nice long spine, and then start to bring the hips back, only as far as you can go without rounding the back. Only straighten the left leg as far as you can go without rounding the back. Okay, so really the hips will end up right on top of the back knee. It's called half splits. So you don't really want to bring your hip back toward your heel, for example. Okay, so just keep breathing here, drawing the chest forward, shoulders back. Relax your face, breathe. Good. Now start to bend your knee again. Bring both hands inside of the left foot. So if you're on your blocks, bring both blocks inside the left foot. Walk the left foot over to the side. Turn the toes out a little bit. It just allows more kind of movement, more space in the pelvis. But make sure that you're pushing into all four corners of the foot. Don't let it fall out to the side. Keep your knee pointing in the same direction as the toes. Now, you might want to walk your right knee back a couple of inches so you feel a little bit of a deeper stretch. Okay, but not to where you feel pain. Now stay here, or again, you can turn your blocks down and go down to the next level, whatever feels good for you. As far as you can go to feel sensation, but not pain. Breathe. Good, and then slowly come back up and bring that leg back, however you can. Yeah, you can move your props off to the side and then grab the bolster, if you're using one, and sit on that. And then Marty, I'm still gonna have you face forward so that they can see you from the side. I might turn forward sometimes, but let's come back to our easy seated pose. Okay, so sitting on the bolster as needed, nice long spine. I also like to pull the flesh away from the sitting bones. Okay, that just helps you to ground down a little bit more. So I am actually gonna use the blocks. If you're sitting on a bolster, you might still want the blocks, but what I'm gonna do is put those right in front. Okay, so we're gonna come into a seated forward fold here, and it's really gonna start to get into the hips and the glutes, but just like we did in that kind of runner's lunge, I want you to have a nice long spine. Okay, so Marty, you can bring your hands to your knees or to the blocks if they touch. And I want you to think about inhale, really lengthening the spine. And then as we come forward, we're gonna exhale, tilt the pelvis. So you're gonna tilt the pelvis forward. He's not gonna go super far, but we don't wanna round the back. Walk your blocks out a little bit further. Good, so keep the chest forward, shoulders plugged in. And see how he's not rounding the back to go super far into the pose. If that's where you feel a stretch, that's fine. Do you feel a stretch there, like in the hips here? Okay, so then tilt the pelvis forward more, like you're trying to really stick your booty out. You can lower the blocks even, so you can come down a little bit lower. Good, tilt the pelvis forward, stick the booty out. Yes. Now do you feel a little bit more? Okay, good. So tuck your chin just slightly to keep the neck long. You can close your eyes here or find a gazing point and breathe. Just really starting to kind of slow it down. Take some cleansing breaths if that feels good. Good, and then slowly come up, and then we're going to switch the cross of the legs. If you need to extend the legs out for a second, feel free to do that, and then just cross the other leg in front. And again, pull the flesh away from the sitting bones. Do a big shoulder roll, inhale, lengthen, and exhale, tilt the pelvis forward. Hands can be on the knees or come down to the blocks. Just really keep the spine long, keep drawing the chest forward. So if you're on a bolster, it does help to kind of come towards the edge of the bolster. That just helps to tilt the pelvis forward a little bit more easily. Tuck the chin slightly to keep the neck long. Close the eyes if that feels comfortable. Come back to your affirmation and your breath. Relax your face, relax your jaw. Okay, and then slowly come up, and now move the blocks off to the side. Okay, and then I'm going to have you lay down onto your back. Okay, so let's lay down onto the back. If you have a bolster, then you can put that under the knees. So now Marty and everybody watching, bring your knees in towards your chest and give yourself a little bit of a hug here. If you need to just do one leg at a time, that's also fine. But just giving yourself a squeeze and rock a little bit from side to side, just kind of stretching the low or massaging the low back. Okay, and then I'm going to put the bolster right under the knees. And then from there, let's do a full body stretch. Yeah, you can bring your feet to the bolster and then extend one leg out at a time. And then reach your arms overhead in the opposite direction. Good. Reach them up, 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 and maybe even arch the back a little bit. Reach as far as you can. And then bring your arms down by your sides. Have your palms facing up, a little bit wider than the mat. Roll the shoulders away from the ears, and then soften the chest. Let the feet be about as wide as the mat, and let the feet be turning out if that feels good. Close your eyes. And then just start to let the body relax more and more, letting the ground carry the body weight here, letting go of any tension that could be left, letting yourself drift off to that place right before you fall asleep. We'll be here for just a few moments, just really enjoying this final relaxation. Start deepening your breath. Maybe take a couple cleansing breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. If it would feel good, you could do another full body stretch. And then if you have the bolster there, just bend your knees, placing your feet onto the bolster. And then you can, with your feet, just move the bolster away from you a little bit, just kind of push it forward. And then roll onto your right hand side using your right arm for a pillow. Take a couple breaths here. And with the strength of your arms, slowly push yourself up to seated. Let your head be the last thing to come up. Coming to that final easy cross-legged pose, you can face this way. Pull the flesh away from the sitting bones, sit up tall, shoulder roll. So let the shoulders relax away from the ears, chin parallel to the ground, and open the palms on the knees. Just signifying that you're releasing anything that you worked up to the surface, anything you no longer need. You don't have to put a name on it, just setting that intention to let it go. And come back to your breath here. And start to compare how you're feeling now to how you were feeling when you first sat down on your mat with me today. Compare your breath, how your body's feeling, your mind and your emotions. And circle your hands together in front of your heart into prayer. And just take a moment to thank yourself for doing yoga today. Maybe for trying something new, or for sticking with your practice, trying a new teacher, trying a new kind of yoga, whatever it is. Just thank yourself for getting to your mat today. And take a moment to bring gratitude into your heart. So think of anything that makes you feel gratitude, and if nothing comes to mind easily, just repeat, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Let your lips form a slight smile and really feel that gratitude in your heart, almost like it's bubbling over. Beautiful. And take one final breath in through the nose and out through your mouth. And then bow your head, bring your thumbs from your heart center up to your forehead. Just sealing in your practice, acknowledging the energy that's within you, around you, connects us all together and never goes away. That energy within me acknowledges that energy within you. And I thank you so very much for letting me guide you through your practice today. Namaste.